I feel like, some people, myself included, are probably like, wait, we have minimum wage laws. Like, how is this happening? How is this happening and why do we need a law to fix it? And so I was just wondering how you can explain how this wage theft is taking place.
Wage theft happens in the garment industry, particularly here in California, very easily because of the piece rate system of pay. That's when workers are paid per seam, per operation. So sometimes that can mean they're paid 4 cents per shoulder seam, or a few cents per hem. And really what that translates to is an unsustainable pace of production. I'll share an example of a different leader, Anna, who was paid 12 cents per t-shirt hem. When she did the math to calculate how many t-shirts she would need to sew in order to make the equivalent of a minimum wage for that day, she would have to make over 850 t-shirts in one day. She can't physically produce 850 t-shirts in one day. So she works 10 to 12 hours a day, 5 to 6 days a week, is paid usually a weekly average of $350. That's being paid 12 cents per hem. And she's not even given time for meal breaks, rest breaks, or overtime. So all of that adds up.
You're hitting on another part of it, which is just ensuring that workers get paid the minimum wage. Can you talk a little bit more about how that part of the bill will work?
So SB 62 eliminates the use of the piece rate system in favor of whatever the prevailing minimum hourly wage will be throughout the state of California. Employers can still provide incentives based on productivity to keep up a healthy pace of production, right? But the ceiling right now of garment worker wages is the minimum floor. That's the max they could really earn through what we have. And what we're saying is let's make that the floor and let's allow them to continue to earn beyond that.
I know that you're supportive of the Garment Worker Protection Act, and I'm wondering if you can just talk about why it's important to you as a business owner to support the bill.
SMV is not contributing to this problem because we're conscious of the supply chain. That being said, we are completely in support of the bill because these larger brands have all of the money and all of the power, and they're doing things the most gluttonous, worst way humanly possible. It's a wild thought if you really just think about it. Minimum wage is a thing. It's been enforced for a very long time. It increases with time. If it's a law, why is it not trickled into the fashion industry and for sewers? It truly doesn't make any sense. So it's really just about human rights, which we should all care about. This isn't easy work at all. This is complicated, and they create things that we find beautiful that we wear on our bodies. Don't we want the process to be beautiful from beginning to end, from the moment the clothing is being made to what it looks like when we're wearing it on ourselves?
So, Nayantara, I want to come back to you and to the work of the Garment Workers Center. I'm wondering if you can just tell us a little bit more about this organization and then how you're connected to this very important piece of legislation, the Garment Worker Protection Act.
So GWC focuses really on worker organizing, developing leadership of garment workers in the anti-sweatshop movement in California. And we do it through direct action. We demand brand accountability. We do worker-led organizing and policy advocacy, where we have our own Garment Worker Protection Act. My role is actually in building industry support, so brand and factory level support for this bill, because this has a lot of impacts, not only on the garment workers directly, but their communities, their families. And so I'm really happy and proud to say that we have about 150 businesses in support of the bill, including Sami Miro Vintage. And it's a sign that this is a really important bill, because not only does it improve the working conditions and address the root causes really for why wages are so poor in this industry, but it also levels the playing field for businesses who are really trying to do things the right way, but they're undermined. They have to justify their prices. So it's an important bill, and I'm very excited to be here and to talk about it a little bit more with you all.
Why isn't this just an issue of just telling consumers they need to support different kinds of brands, that we just need to vote with our dollars? Can you talk a little bit more about how this is a systemic problem?
I think consumers play a really important role in communicating what they want to brands and in pushing brands to be more responsible. But it shouldn't ultimately fall on the consumer, right? Brands need to really acknowledge that the choices that they make as a business have implications for everyone down the supply chain and through the product life cycle of a garment to the consumer as well, right? We cannot shop our way out of this problem because it's such an industry-wide systemic issue where a few years ago in 2016, the Department of Labor came and did a study of 77 factories throughout Los Angeles, randomly selected factories, and found that 85% of them had violations. And that of all these factories, they also found that the brands that were using these factories only paid 73% of the price that would be required for that supplier to be able to pay minimum wage. We have all this evidence that it goes up to the brands, but the way the system is set up right now, the employers themselves aren't even given enough money. They don't have the resources to be in compliance with minimum wage standards, let alone to invest in the factories to clean up the spaces. And so it's coming from the brands. And that's why I think our efforts should not be on turning to each other and saying, shop here, shop there, shop more sustainably, but really talking up to the brands and telling them, you need to present us with better options. And that's going to only come when they take accountability.
I know that, you've mentioned the business coalition, and I think that this is one of the coolest parts of what's going on with the Garment Worker Protection Act is that it actually has a lot of business supports. Who are these businesses and what is their vision of the fashion industry that they are advocating for?
The majority of the businesses in support of this bill are person of color, woman of color owned businesses. They're really connected and understand, I think, a little bit more of not just the social impacts, right, of garment work, but the environmental impacts of the fashion industry on communities of color because they come from those communities. They really try to incorporate their values into how they grow their business from the beginning. It's really exciting because this is also kind of coinciding with some shape shifting that the industry is going, where we're seeing trends towards smaller production or, more intentional production lines, right, by brands that take responsibility and also communicate more directly with their consumers, maybe sell more directly to their consumers, and away from some of the old traditional models that really just produce mass volumes of good and hope it sells on the market.
So if you want to get involved in supporting the Garment Worker Protection Act, I am the Director of Policy and Advocacy at Remake. So Remake has an action kit for those who want to support SB 62. So if you go to Instagram, the handle is Remake Our World. I also help coordinate a coalition called the Pay Up Fashion Coalition that also has assets that you can access. And then I'll turn it over to Nayantara so you can learn where to sign petitions and all that good stuff.
I suggest you follow Garment Worker Center on Instagram at Garment Worker Center. Anyone around the world can sign the petition in support of SB 62 because garments that are made in California are sold and distributed all over this country and world. And we also really encourage businesses to sign on as endorsers, join this fun, amazing party. And I also encourage anyone working in any role at a fashion brand or manufacturer to directly reach out to me. You can email me at nayantara@garmentworkercenter.org as well.
This conversation has been so insightful and so powerful and so important that I am just on behalf of Future Earth, so grateful that you women, and Santa included, took the time to have this conversation and to really educate people on what's going on and the layers behind, what we so thoughtlessly put on every day, that there's just so much value in this. Elizabeth, Sami, Nayantara, thank you so much for your time. This honestly was such an incredible conversation. Thank you guys.